The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shoshana Wold-Parkinson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, today marks 2 years since the Free National Movement was elected as the government of the country. It was an overwhelming win based on a commitment of change for the country and a promise to revive the Grand Bahama economy. Tonight, the Minister of State for Grand Bahama is giving a report card of sorts on the government's performance with a special emphasis on Grand Bahama. Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwazii Thompson, says the government has made significant progress on Grand Bahama since its landslide victory in 2017, winning the country's election 35-4 and securing all 5 seats on Grand Bahama. He says while May 10th signals the second anniversary, it isn't the halfway mark for the government's 5-year term. But he says there's much to be proud of, like the completion of the seawall in Smith's Point, the largest renovations to the Justice Center, the cleanup of the dump site in West End, the opening of the fire station, and the soon-to-be completion of the school and government complex in the West. But he says one of the main focus is turning this island into a technology hub.
The government has made it its focus to expose the island to the opportunities that technology will present itself. You've just seen with respect to education that there's been a complete focus, $17 million, which is going to be dedicated to transforming our educational system. We've seen the $30 million that is going to be allocated for the government public service digital transformation that is also underway and is going to significantly improve service and significantly improve the lives of Bahamians. We've seen the BH-1B visa, which is important for us, particularly here in Grand Bahama, to be able to provide the opportunities for those persons who want to work in the tech industry.
He says the government is also focused on training and education and notes that as a result of the policies implemented by this F&M government, many new businesses have been opened, which has also aided in a slight decline in the island's unemployment numbers. Thompson notes that the government had to make hard decisions like purchasing the Grand Lucayan Resort, but he says this is going to pay off.
A major development that has happened over the 2 years is that, one, the Free National Movement has prevented the Alukaya Hotel from closing, which it was on its way to. And not only have we prevented it from closing, but taking the extraordinary step, which no government really had intended on doing, but it was a necessary step to save the jobs of the persons in Alukaya, to purchase it, and now have embarked upon an LOI with Royal Caribbean and ITM, which has the potential of bringing 3+ million cruise passengers to the Bahamas, providing in the range of 2,000 jobs for Grand Bahamians.
The Minister of Grand Bahama says another hard decision during the 2-year period was the increase in value-added tax from 7.5% to 12%.
So what is a very important thing to note is that for the first time in probably since the Great Recession, the economy of the Bahamas really is growing. And we've seen in the area of 2% growth, and we've seen in the area of 2% growth actually for 2 consecutive years. And one of the things that which makes a difference is this is the first time that you've seen 2% growth for 2 consecutive years since the Great Recession. And we've also seen a decrease in Grand Bahama in particular in unemployment for it was from 12.4 to 11.9.
He notes that many residents are also benefiting from the Small Business Development Center, and soon he says the entire island will reap from the $200 million cruise port.
I believe that Grand Bahamians are feeling more hopeful. we still need to ensure that the work that we are doing, that more Grand Bahamians feel the impact. And we're very mindful that we must ensure that we continue to work to ensure that the more Grand Bahamians feel the impact. We believe that have Grand Bahamians felt some impact? I believe some Grand Bahamians have. But I again emphasize that we must ensure that even more Grand Bahamians feel an impact. And so we have to remain focused, we have to remain driven, we have to continue to work to ensure that even more Grand Bahamians can feel, see, and touch the impact of what's happening.
In other news, the Bahamas Agricultural and Industrial Corporation wrapping up their conch shell carving workshop. For a little over a week, participants received some vital knowledge about the souvenir industry. A closing ceremony was held last evening at the Grand Bahama Arts and Crafts Center. Participants were encouraged to showcase Bahamian culture through arts and crafts. Italia Hall reports.
The purpose of the 10-day workshop was to give creatives additional training in the souvenir industry. Participants were taught how to use the country's natural resources to make unique products. Chairman of the Bahamas Agricultural and Industrial Corporation, Bishop Gregory Colley, commending the group during the closing ceremony for their extraordinary talent and artistic abilities.
There is no doubt that this is the best time for anyone to be involved in any sort of craft or industry that not only our own local people will be happy and proud to purchase, but to be available to the millions of tourists that grace these shores.
Minister for Agriculture and Marine Resources, the Honorable Michael Pintard, says next year there will be multiple workshops held and many of their products will be on display across the country.
We intend to create a platform and a forum where persons who are traveling from around the world would have an opportunity to see what you have created. So you can fully expect that there's going to be a tremendous amount of activities making room for your creativity.
Minister Pintard says this month, BAIC, in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, will be launching a portal that will enable fly fishermen to apply and pay for their permits needed online to fly fish or to cruise in Bahamian waters.
We are making sure that no longer on TripAdvisor there's going to be a criticism of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas for not being integrated digitally around the world. Why is this significant for what you're doing here tonight? The truth is, persons should be able to order the things that you create from halfway around the world and you package and deliver it. And so we want to partner with you to make sure that those who come to our shores, they're able to leave with some of the beautiful things, the useful things that you create. But for those who have not yet visited the place where God lives, that they are able to order online and you are able to send it to them.
Pintard says during the next workshop, additional technology will be provided for the participants, which he hopes will be held this summer. He adds that the ministry, along with BAIC, is now in the process of collaborating with local, national, and international organizations to take the conch shell carving industry in the Bahamas to the next level. Certificates were presented. The minister was also taken on a tour to view the products. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Members of the Grand Bahama Taxi Union up in arms again, but the issues aren't new. In fact, taxi union leaders say they are tired of complaining and will soon have to resort to other options. Jamila Mizik reports.
Tourism is up, but not for taxi drivers in Grand Bahama. That's the cry of taxi drivers on the island who are once again expressing various concerns. Grand Bahama Taxi Union President Harold Curry says one of their biggest concerns, the increase in taxi fares.
We was at the Prime Minister's office sometime in December, like December 2nd, 2018. Asking for increase of taxi fare. A little before the general election, Nassau applied for increase of taxi fare. They got it. We agitated for it as well, and it never came to us. So we wondering why Grand Bahama always getting put on the back burner. The taxi drivers, they're hurting. Their family hurting. They need money to take care of the family. Right now, we have situation right now with inspection, where you're putting pressure on my drivers them, and then you have people taking away jobs left, right, and center.
Other issues include the alleged illegal practices of privately owned vehicles and companies soliciting and transporting cruise ship passengers and employees. The union president says they have made numerous complaints to the road traffic department about these concerns. Now
we have over 800-900 contractors coming a week, and they charging those people $25 or so to take them to the site, and that's taxi jobs. That's wrong.
We have an issue with livery cars and bonded vehicles and private companies literally stealing, I say it again, literally stealing the jobs from the taxi drivers.
Now, Vice President of the Trade Unions Congress, Kirkland Russell, says they're standing hand in hand with the taxi union, adding that it is time for the taxi drivers to be treated fairly and given an equitable share. He says the union is looking for answers, and if there aren't results soon, the union will take drastic measures.
I say without fear of contradiction that we are going to give the powers, and I say we, because like I said, we joined with the taxi drivers. We are going to give the powers to be, and those responsible, a reasonable amount of time to come up with a proper plan and a proper solution that is fair to these taxi drivers. And I'm talking about by the time we get to Labor Day, I want some announcement to be made pertaining to these taxi drivers. That's June 7th.
The union is asking for the relevant authorities to not only enforce rules and regulations, but to seriously take into account the plight of taxi drivers who feel they're being overlooked and ignored. Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
The Minister of State for Grand Bahama, Kwazii Thompson, is responding to those claims made by the Grand Bahama Taxi Union. Megan Shepard has his story.
Taxis are extremely important for Grand Bahama.
Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwazii Thompson, responding to the taxi union's claims, saying that taxi drivers are a vital tourism partner and are extremely important to the tourism product in Grand Bahama, adding that it is unfortunate that for many years the union has been having issues. He says his office has taken a direct interest in meeting with taxi drivers and facilitating an agreement between the taxi union and Bahamas Paradise to allow new business to come to taxi drivers as a result.
It allowed taxis to have more business. It allowed them to have more time with respect to their guests, to be able to build relationships with their guests. And we spoke about this on a previous occasion. However, there still is a lot of work that needs to be done with respect to the taxi union business and here in Grand Bahama.
The minister says his ministry remains committed to working with the taxi union to make it better for them and ensure they get their fair share of business at the Freeport Harbor and throughout the island.
I also encourage the taxi union and taxis to also look forward to and to begin to prepare themselves for the opportunities that we believe will be coming here to Grand Bahama. One of the things that we have been very insistent on when we have our discussions with these developments is that taxis and the taxi union must get their share of the business when these investments come.
And as for the increase in taxi fares, the minister has this response.
I have been advised by the Minister for Transport that the government has approved the increase for the taxi fees. The increase for the taxi fees has been tabled in Parliament, and the last step is for it to be gazetted before it comes into effect. I've also been advised that this process should be completed before the end of the month in order for the increases to come into full effect.
The minister says the process is important to both the government and the taxi union and assures that they will work with the union to ensure that the entire tourism product continues to thrive. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
In news from the crime beat, the Doyle Mackay murder trial coming to a close in the Supreme Court yesterday. Presiding Justice Estelle Gray Evans giving her summation around 11 a.m. yesterday and handed the case over to the jury. At 7 p.m., jurors returned with a verdict. It was a hung jury on both murder charges as 11 jurors voted guilty and one not guilty on the murder of Carlos Hamilton and the same count 11-1 for the murder of Carlton Hamilton. Mackay also faced 3 attempted murder charges. He was found guilty on attempted murder charge by a majority vote. Mackay, a resident of New Providence, was standing trial for the fatal shooting of Carlton and Carlos Hamilton in a remote area near McLeanstown in East End on November 2016, and the attempted murder of 3 others on that same day. Mackay was remanded in custody and will return to court on July 17th for sentencing. Mackay was represented by attorney Carlton Sherland. Erica Kemp headed the prosecution team. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight. Stay with us. There's more news on the other side of the break.